This is truly a time for action, isn't it? Don't you feel called? I mean, I know I feel called to action in a way that I have not ever been called before. And so it is timely that 2019 is dedicated to spirituality and action. There it is. to spirituality in action. And this month, bringing that quality known as integrity into every action that we take. And so today, I really wanted to focus on that second part of integrity, which is the actual action, which means be truthful in our, I totally went blank, to be truthful in facts and motives, to be truthful in facts and motives. And so, and the topic is actually called living a spiritual life. And the truth is, we're always living a spiritual life, right? We live in a spiritual universe governed by spiritual law, and we are pure spirit itself, individualized. All there is God. All there is the infinite spirit of God. So we're living a spiritual life, but what is the quality of that life that we are living? How are we using that gift of spiritual creativity that we have in every aspect of our lives? So, with all that's going on right now, it's truly a reminder that this life, the spiritual life, which we know is ongoing and we know has an evolutionary urge behind it, that spiraling upward of freer, fuller, more expanded expression, that everything that's happening around us that seems other than that is really an evolutionary driver. It's calling us into growing, expanding, and unfolding as the presence, the divine presence that we are, the presence of love, the presence of peace. And part of the spiritual evolution, then, which I'm wanting to really have us all grapple with, is that there are times of great spiritual evolution for us as individuals and collectively as humanity. And there are also times of challenge when there's contrast in our lives, when we question if what it is that we think we know to be truth is really true. That's part of the human experience. That's what I want to get across today. And so it's not so much what happens that I want to deal with today, it's how we respond to what happens. Do we respond by hiding and withdrawing from life in fear or lashing out in anger? Or do we choose, no matter what's going on, to come from love? So every choice, every point of what's going on in our lives is a point of choice. What is it we choose? Do we take the high road? Do we choose love? And are we willing to begin to notice when we don't so that we can course correct? And here's the thing, no matter how often we're sidetracked and we maybe fall into fear, which is what much of humanity is doing right now, instead of when we notice we do that, we can always get back on track and we can always forgive ourselves and let it go and move on. Because we know that the more that we continue to move to higher and higher ground, the more we support our own evolution and also the evolution of all of humanity, since we're all interconnected. So, this whole concept of being truthful in facts and motives, integrity, again, simply means wholeness. If we look at it, it means being whole, in a state of wholeness and being undivided. It also conjures up, if we're coming from wholeness, then what we're doing is we're choosing the right thing. We're choosing what is highest and best, not only for ourselves, but for others. And that means when no one is watching, right? And also when it might be inconvenient, always in alignment with our values. So it's really important to be clear on what our values are. So let's be truthful about the facts. It's no secret to me and to all of you, I'm sure, that injustice is taking place on the planet, and it has been for centuries, eons. The thing that's happening right now, though, because of mass media, is we're more aware of it. We're waking up to it. And so facing the facts of things like this is really part of the evolutionary process. It's called awareness. It's being aware that this is what we're dealing with so that we can, therefore, become allies to those who are experiencing injustice, or that we can speak up when we notice that we're being the brunt of injustice. It truly is important for us to face the facts of what's going on. So again, facing the facts brings us back to integrity, brings us back to wholeness, and also brings us back into alignment with the values of our nation that are in the Constitution: equality, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I am so grateful for the communities that we are part of. Not only this community is part of the Centers for Spiritual Living. The Centers for Spiritual Living has been actively pursuing, helping us transform our consciousness around bias, toward other people, to various groups in our world. Break down the barriers of bias, sometimes that are unconscious, that we're not even aware of, so that we can embrace others more openly and more aware of some of the resistances that we might have, or some of the stereotypes that we might carry in our minds, to break that down and to begin to meet everyone, human to human, divine to divine, and support each other to become true allies of one another. I also love that we are a part of Association for Global New Thought, called AGNT for short. They have actively developed a curriculum called SUM, Social Uplift Ministries, that has just been launched. And we're part of that organization. We have access to that curriculum. And I still have not yet done it, but I've read all of the details about what it involves. And it's going to cover all of the major topics that where injustice occurs throughout the next 2 years, 2019, 2020. And so I'm knowing a lot of really good material is coming from that. And again, this is about expanding our consciousness and bringing our values out into action in the world. And we can do that collectively. It's not something we have to do on our own. We can do it collectively as a community and collectively with other New Thought communities all over the planet. And that really excites me. It excites me that there's this new trajectory and this new intention that's taking place in our spiritual communities. And so there'll be more about that in the future, and I'll be sharing that with you. So be truthful in motives. Thanks to Tom, I recently received a video that was a Super Soul Sunday interview by Oprah of Gary Zukav. And Gary Zukav teaches that every action that we take has a motive behind it. And motives or intentions is another word for that. It has an intention behind it. And he says it boils down to two intentions. Everything. Love or fear. Is our intention coming from fear, or is our intention or motive coming from love? So we know what happens when it comes from fear, right? We self-sabotage, we we destroy our relationships with others. It can turn into violence. It can turn into withdrawal. It's just simply something that is not healthy and good for us. And sometimes it's very subtle. That's why it's really important to pay attention to where we're coming from in each and every moment. Oprah said this was life changing for her the first time she heard this years ago, and that she very intentionally checks in with herself and with all the people that she works with, that every decision comes from love, not from fear. She even mentioned that there was a particular um, celebrity that the producer had tried to line up for her show, and she checked in, and he said this will really draw in a lot of people if you have this person on the show. And she checked in with herself and she listened, and she thought, no, if I go with this person, I'm coming from fear, not from love. And so she refused to have that person on the show. We don't know who it is, but anyway, it had a huge impact on her. What a wonderful example of just simply asking ourselves, am I coming from love? Am I coming from fear? What is my motive? Let's be truthful with myself. The Parliament of World's Religions actually offered that opportunity for me the other day. I get their emails, and they had called for people to sign a letter, to put your name down and that kind of thing, sign a letter to all of the people in New Zealand, the Muslims and all others who might be affected by the recent violence. And so I took action. I took action. My intention was love. My intention was to join that flood of people who all are standing behind our brothers and sisters in that country, and really the Muslim community all over the world. So there are things that we can do. That's what I'm trying to say is there are ways that we can choose to be an ally and to really turn the tide on injustice. Small things that we can do every day. It's really easy to sign a petition online. It's really easy to just in our day to day lives make some choices in the way we interact with others that models the golden rule. And one of the things that really came to me, it was actually part of the spiritual growth circle when we were discussing one of the topics, is that truly the antidote for social injustice is to follow the golden rule. That's it. It's that simple. So as we continue to do unto others as we would have them do unto us, as we choose love, we are choosing to be an ambassador of that with social justice or of social uplift is what New Thought is using instead of the word justice, because sometimes justice, um, that word can cause a reaction in people. So if social uplift works for you, you can use that. So part of a spiritual life then is having some discipline with our daily meditation, treatment, visioning, our spiritual practice. So important. And again, we know that that helps us get into alignment with where the presence of love wants to go in our lives, to get in touch with that guidance. And being human means that we fall off the path sometimes. Again, it's important to understand that so we can stay in compassion. And so it's important then that we recommit, that the moment we notice we're off the path, recommit, let go of the guilt. We know that guilt is out of integrity, right? I mean, it just takes us out of integrity. Let go of the guilt, recommit, get back on the path, and moving in the direction of what we value. And I'm going to read that beautiful quote by Rumi again because it speaks to this so powerfully. So just imagine you've fallen off the path, and Rumi says to you, "Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. It doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you've broken your vows, your vows to stay on your spiritual practice 1,000 times. Come yet again, come, come." So I'm calling upon all of us to the best extent possible to be ambassadors of God's love through social action. And there are some really simple ways you can do it here in this community. We have Friendship House available. You can donate personal items to Friendship House. That supports people who are homeless, who really need a boost up. You can donate to our teen camp fund to assure that teens who can't afford to come are able to come. And the teen camp is coming up really soon. And here's some other things, to stay in alignment with that motive of love. Refuse to stereotype people. How many of us find ourselves falling into stereotyping just automatically in our own minds, if not out loud, right? So if we can break the habit of stereotyping anyone, that means Muslims as well, for the transgressions of a few extremists. Think about that. Refuse to use name calling, abusive behavior, and anger to solve problems. Set aside pride and apologize. Rather than lose your temper with another driver on the road, choose love, choose patience, choose love. So here's the thing, is that living a spiritual life in integrity means being truthful in facts and motives. The facts are, when we've talked about them, injustice. It's out there. And motives, we can check in with ourselves on our motives each and every time and really truly make a difference. And the other thing is I know sometimes, I know for myself when I see all the things that are going on in the world, and I sometimes go into overwhelm and I think, okay, where do I start first? What is it that's mine to do that can really make a difference and an impact on the planet? And so here's what I've come up with is find just one thing a day that you can do, whether it's a prayer, whether it's just simply shifting your thinking, when you notice you're doing stereotyping or whatever, shifting your thinking, whether it is a kind gesture when you're in the supermarket toward another person, whatever it may be, know that each time that you choose love, you truly are making a difference. And I absolutely love all of you. I'm so grateful for you and for all that you do to make the planet and life better. And so it is. So it is. Yeah.